Upgrades.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another JVS movie review. Today, we are reviewing a film that I had absolutely no idea how big of a deal this film was, and that all of a sudden it's become the biggest horror movie of the year. And this one here is called Five Nights at Freddy's. Here's a quick synopsis. Mike Schmidt, a troubled security guard, accepts a nighttime job at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a once successful but now abandoned family entertainment center, where he discovers its four animatronic mascots move and kill anyone that is still there after midnight. And this one is directed by Tammi. It stars Josh Hutcherson, Elizabeth Lail, Piper Rubio, and Matthew Lillard. Five Nights at Freddy's is based off of a very successful video game franchise that I had absolutely no idea existed. I'm going to be upfront and honest about that, because that helps get to the point of my review, because I did not know that this was based off of a successful video game franchise, and just how excited people were that this film was coming out. And all of a sudden the box office tracking comes out, and as anticipation builds, I was just wondering, why are people anticipating this film so much? Now that I knew that, but because I did not necessarily know the backstory going into this film, it left me a little bit in the dark. I'll start off first by saying Five Nights at Freddy's is a kid's film. This is not a horror film. It has horror elements in it. It's very similar to Goosebumps books, or even possibly the Goosebumps film years ago with Jack Black, or even the Scooby-Doo films. It's children's horror. Granted, here they do go a little bit further than the normal children's horror at times, and they do certain things to make you wonder what happened to characters off screen, but not necessarily being overly gory and showing you anything. So this is a children's horror film in every aspect of that word. As we're introduced to this character, Josh, who plays Mike, we see him just as a struggling brother trying to do whatever he has to do to make sure that his sister, who he now has custody of, is taken care of. We get a huge backstory with Mike. Doesn't matter. We get a huge subplot with the sister. Doesn't matter. The crux of this film is strictly about the mascots and what happens when we get at Freddy's. That's it. And from the outside, from a film critic's perspective, that is odd. That will be the only focus, and that you can gloss over everything else. But then when you realize this is based off of a video game series, that is literally the crux of the video game series. You get someone, doesn't matter who the character is, he has to survive at night from these mascots. That is the way the video game works. That's what people who are into this video game absolutely loved about it. So, at first, going into it, I kept on thinking to myself, okay, I wonder if this is going to be good. After watching it, the story has huge issues. The plot makes absolutely no sense. They are people who are either dead or missing in this film, and it makes you question what the heck is going on here. But then you have to realize, is this film loyal to its core base? From everything I've seen, yes, it is very reminiscent of the video game. So to me, if you love the video game, you're possibly going to love this movie. If you're a lover of horror, this is not for you, because this is not a horror movie. It is marketed as a horror movie. I went into it expecting a horror movie. Instead, again, you get a kid's film. It's as scary as Haunted Mansion is. Either one of the Eddie Murphy one or the one that came out this year. Either one of them. It's about as scary as those films are. There are not elements of actual horror to me in it. There's true elements of suspense in it, but it's way more comedic suspense than that heart-pounding horror type of suspense that helps move a plot forward. And while it feels, if you're a horror film lover, like, that's to the detriment of the film that they decided to go in that direction. But if you realize who the target audience is of this film, you can respect that they decided to take this approach with this film and say, hey, we can go extra gory with this, but we're going to alienate a huge population who want to see this film. So in the end, this is a kid's film. Through and through. Whether you love it or hate it, it's a kid's film. As it pertains to the direction of it, Emma does a great job at focusing the plot on the mascots. Focusing the story on the mascots, while you get other things all the way around it. Again, with Mike with his sister and this plot of other family members in this film, unnecessary. We get an evil aunt in this film that is unnecessary. It felt like at times they were building up characters to dispatch of characters. And that's not necessarily a good thing, especially in a film that's not going the traditional horror route, but more going the comedic, family-friendly horror route as this one went. So those characters and those subplots are unnecessary. But I think it was just enough to keep its young audience, who they're going after here, intrigued. And I want to say that that's the thing here. Five Nights at Freddy's is a movie that is not for me. Point blank and period. And I'm not going to say it's a good movie. But what I'm going to say is that I believe its audience that it is going after is absolutely going to love this film. And that says a lot about this movie. That it's going to hit its target audience. It's just not going to hit anyone else. I don't think this is going to be for anyone else but its target audience. But its target audience is going to absolutely love this film. So it kind of puts you in a situation, as someone who reviews film, of wondering, is that a negative or positive thing? And I grappled with this a little bit before deciding to put my thoughts down here, of wondering, did I watch a good film, or did I watch a film that just isn't meant for me? I'm going to say this is not a good film. But it's not a good film in the same vein of Super Mario, which came out earlier this year, is not a good film, but it's entertaining, especially to its core base. It's the same way the early 2000s Scooby-Doo films with Freddie Prinze and, amazingly, Matthew Lillard, who was also in this one. Like, the way those films hit the audience that it was meant to hit, but didn't go beyond that. And I think this is 2000s, early 2000s way of making movies, of saying, if we hit our target audience, we don't need anything else. And Five Nights at Freddy's hits its target audience. It just will not be intriguing to anyone who has not played this video game, who is not invested in this video game. If these are things that you don't know nothing about, or if you do like me and go into this film cold turkey and you don't know anything about any element of this, you're gonna be bored. This movie is amazingly too long. It is about 30 minutes too long. This movie could have been trimmed down to a nice and tight hour and 15 minutes. And for some odd reason, it went way above that, which was unnecessary. But again, for its target audience, just like I would say about other certain films that get made, it's going to be appealing to the people it needs to be appealing to. It's just not going to branch out and garner any new fans for the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. But Five Nights at Freddy's, brought to you by Blumhouse and Universal. And this film is going day and date in theaters and on Peacock this Friday. Out of a possible 10, I'm going to give Five Nights at Freddy's 5.5 out of 10. It hits its target audience. It has some funny moments in it. It has moments that are funny that I don't think were meant to be funny. But in the end, it's a pleasant horror family comedy. We don't get these too often here. And while I could complain about the story, I can complain about the plot, I can complain about a multitude of things in it that I think are really, really bad. But to me, in the end, that's unnecessary, because it's true to its source material, no matter how light the source material is, and it's true to what its fan base asks for. It gives you exactly what you ask for. So if you have kids who are into this franchise, or if you're in your early 20s or mid 20s and you grew up with this franchise, I think you're going to love this movie. It's just not going to garner anything for anyone who's not already invested in Five Nights at Freddy's. If you are invested in it, you're going to enjoy it. If you are not, this is something you can skip and stay home from. This is not going to be for you. If you are a horror movie fan, this is not for you, because this is not a horror film in any aspect. What I consider this a horror film. So just beware before you either watch it at home or go to the theaters and see it. I would prefer you go to the theaters and see it. It is still a enjoyable experience to be in the theaters and see this. But if you can't and you want to watch it at home on a Friday night or a Saturday night or afternoon with the kids, I think it's still a good watch for that purpose. But when it drops, check it out. Let us know what you think. This has been another JVS movie review. Peace, people.